Imagine waking up to the alert that hip-hop's calm just shattered into glass. Kendrick Lamar, silent, surgical, unstoppable now stands alone. And the reason is a rupture no label statement can bandage. SZA is out. Not drifting, not pausing out. Behind that exit trails a storm of red-hot voicemails, midnight meetings, and a rumor about a final verse someone deleted on purpose. Fans are gasping. Bloggers are circling. Playlists are being rearranged like chess pieces at war. Insiders whisper about a boardroom blow-up, a contract clause pulled like a fire alarm, and a 15-second clip that could torch an entire rollout. And Kendrick, he isn't hiding. He's sharpening. Teasers vanish, captions go cryptic, and a lone king sits on a digital chessboard, daring the world to move first. Was this the end of a dynasty or the cold birth of a new reign? Keep your notifications on, because the next name SZA sits beside might flip the West Coast's power grid. Overnight, if you think this is just creative differences, brace yourself. The receipts, the betrayals, and the secret studio lockouts are about to surface. Stay right here, because the move that detonated this split is seconds from exposure. Count whispers, turning into sirens. Kendrick Lamar and SZA did not rise by accident. They rose by orbit, two stars pulled into the same gravity well, lighting up a label, a coast, and a decade. On stage, they felt inevitable. In the studio, they sounded faded. And online, they moved like coded signals brief, surgical. Yet while the public replayed performances and awards, a quieter story threaded through the hallways. Who leads, who follows, and who refuses to be edited out. People near the sessions describe a long fuse, not a sudden blast. Early frictions. Hid inside praise. Compliment about tone masked a request to change a hook. A note about pacing disguised a decision about ownership. When you create at that altitude, even a comma can feel like a crown. One night, under cold fluorescence, a reference track vanished from a shared drive. Another night, a verse came back cleaner, brighter, but missing its edges, the very edges that made it dangerous. Eyes narrowed. Phones went silent. A second version circulated with timestamps redacted and file names renamed to look like drafts. Fans sensed nothing yet. Timelines still glittered with trophies, festivals, and candid laughter. But postings grew more formal. Captions shortened. Behind the scenes, calendars slipped. That collaborative anniversary cut, the label teased. It kept sliding to next Friday, then the Friday after that, until a bright idea started sounding like a delay. Producers felt the temperature shift first. One swears a bridge SZA fought for an unfiltered run that cracked and bled on purpose was removed after a late vote. The replacement was pristine, airtight, algorithm-friendly, and wrong for her chest-wide sky-high delivery. Nobody would confirm who ordered it. Everybody pretended not to know. In another room, a different argument flared. A feature list. Whose names guide the arc? Whose names crowd the margins? A whiteboard photo allegedly snapped before security. Covered cameras showed columns marked solo and link, with an underline beneath solo hard enough to rip the page. No faces in frame, only hands, and a single chess piece doodled in the corner. Then came the meeting. Not a showcase, not a party and inventory of trust. Executives filed in with water bottles and neutral smiles. Engineers hovered near the door. Like air traffic control, two chairs faced each other across a table that felt too small for the weight it carried. Voices were level until they weren't. One said the rollout needed clarity. Another said clarity without consent is control. A thin laptop recorded minutes. A thicker phone allegedly recorded everything else. The room emptied in waves. A printed agenda remained, folded under a pen that had bitten the paper. Outside, the parking lot hummed with calculations. Inside, a single sentence hung in the air. Like feedback, if the vision requires silence from one voice. It isn't a vision, it's a verdict. 40-8 hours later. Social traces started dissolving. Mutual follows thinned. Old photos disappeared. A chessboard image went up on one account. A flower, half in bloom and half scorched, went up on another. Group chats filled with question marks. Playlist editors rewrote blurbs without saying why. Bloggers posted timelines stitched together from crumbs. A studio sighting here, a missing credit there. A muffled laugh in a hallway Mike picked up by accident. Meanwhile, fans argued in comments about what collaboration truly means. Is a cut stronger when it yields to one vision, or when it lets the edges clash until sparks become heat? Some said the greatest leaders step aside. Others said the greatest leaders decide. Neither camp was wrong, and both camps were loud. A smaller circle watched something else. Speed. Advanced links were moving. Artwork frames were changing. A title rumored for months was suddenly nowhere to be found. The quiet conclusion hovered. A pivot had begun. Not a stumble, not a timeout. A pivot the kind that looks like free fall while the wings are being bolted on. Here's the part nobody will admit in public. Separation can be strategy. Clean fracture redirects energy, resets negotiations, and dares the other side to blink. A solo run for one can become a stage extension for another. But strategy only works if the narrative cooperates, and narratives on the internet do not cooperate. They stampede. That's why a 15-second clip matters. Word is, a sliver of audio exists, breath, a chair scrape, a sentence that sounds like a door locking from the inside. It's not proof of anything, and yet it feels like proof of everything. The kind of fragment that invites millions to fill in the gaps with their loudest imaginations. So here we are, a coast waiting for instructions, a label trying to look serene, and two titans about to test whether distance is disaster or design. Call it an ending, call it a beginning. Either way, the countdown has already started. The moment the unfollow happened, insiders swear they could feel the energy shift. No formal press release, no photo ops, just a sudden vacuum that pulled everyone into speculation. For weeks, nothing moved. And then, one wrong move changed everything. It started with a leak. Not from a gossip page. Not from a bitter ex-employee. From inside, a SoundCloud link, password protected, titled draft_v3, made its way into the inbox of three music bloggers notorious for catching pre-release files. The file was short, a beat intro, Kendrick's opening verse, and then silence where SS part should be, in its place. An awkward 8-bar instrumental loop, like someone had cut her voice out with surgical precision. The bloggers didn't just post the track, they posted screenshots of the metadata. And buried inside the removed vocals tag was a single note. Directive K. Approval only. The internet exploded. On Twitter, one fan wrote, "You mean to tell me he ordered her out? Nah, that's wild." Another posted, "This isn't just ego, this is erasure." Within hours, Kendrick Lamar trended at #1. Memes flooded the feed, photoshopped chessboards, animated scissors cutting waveforms, side-by-sides of SZA's Grammy wins versus Kendrick's. It was savage, but the most damning piece wasn't public yet. An anonymous engineer reached out to a mid-tier hip-hop YouTuber with an offer. Exclusive audio from the last session. Kendrick and SZA ever shared. The YouTuber, smelling blood and clicks, promised confidentiality. He hit record on his own camera. And what played through his headphones was 15 seconds of pure tension. You hear the door click. A chair scrape, voice, calm at first, saying, "If you don't want me on it, just say it." A pause. Kendrick's voice, low but sharp. "It's not about want, it's about fit." Then the sound of papers being shuffled. And finally, the killer line, "Some verses don't make the cut." It wasn't a screaming match. It wasn't chaos. It was colder. The type of cold that doesn't melt, it fractures. The YouTuber uploaded a reaction video without playing the full clip, claiming legal reasons. But that didn't matter. Just describing it was enough. Fans filled in the blanks themselves, and the narrative took shape. Kendrick didn't just replace SZA, he iced her out. Inside TDE, people scrambled. According to one assistant, group chats turned into war zones. Some staffers argued the leak was sabotage from an outsider. Others whispered that someone from SZA's camp had deliberately let it slip to burn bridges. And then, the first twist, because just as the label began drafting a quiet, "We wish her the best" post, SZA resurfaced in a private studio session. With a rival camp, no names were confirmed, but photos leaked of her silhouette in a dimly lit booth. The engineer's jacket gave it away, a very specific custom piece known to belong to the crew of one of Kendrick's most public rivals. And that rival, someone Kendrick has never collaborated with, despite years of fan requests. Someone whose presence in this drama would turn it from a breakup into a declaration of war. The reaction was instant. Fans started guessing the name, with 3 frontrunners dominating the conversation. Screenshots of SZA's last recent playlists likes fueled theories. One of the songs belonged to that rival's latest album, the one many say took subliminal shots at Kendrick. Back on Kendrick's side, the moves became even more cryptic. He uploaded a 15-second Instagram story. Black screen, the sound of a ticking clock, and the caption, "All in time." No tags, no music. No context. Industry blogs pounced. Billboard ran a headline, "Is Kendrick Lamar about to answer SZA's silent jab?" Complex went further. The war for West Coast influence has officially begun. Behind the scenes, the chessboard metaphor became real. TDE reportedly began locking down unreleased tracks that featured both artists, fearful they'd be leaked to the public in their raw form. Contracts were pulled out. Lawyers reviewed split sheets, and in the shadows, a few trusted insiders started feeding both sides of the fan war. A screenshot from a private Discord server, allegedly linked to SZA's circle, hinted, "The song she's about to drop will tell you everything." Minutes later, Kendrick's unofficial subreddit got a post claiming K.'s next release will explain the truth. The stakes weren't just music anymore. This was legacy, influence, the power to define the sound of a coast. The final blow of this chapter came late one Friday night, when a well-known DJ went live on Instagram from a rooftop party. In the background, faint but unmistakable, you could hear a female voice singing over a beat from Kendrick's long-rumored vault. The voice? Shaw's. The comments section lost its mind. She took his beat. Nah. This is a straight-up shot. The live ended abruptly. The DJ claimed it was old footage, but by then, the clip had already been ripped, looped, and posted everywhere now. Both camps were locked in silence. Fans weren't. And the rival's name, it hadn't been said aloud yet. But the next move would make it impossible to deny. Silence is supposed to calm things down. This silence made everything louder. The internet stared into the void between two titans and decided to fill it with gasoline. Threads multiplied. Timelines fractured. And then, in one jolt that felt like a power outage across the culture, the rival's name stopped being a rumor and became a headline. It happened at 12:01 a.m., like a trapdoor opening. A muted teaser appeared on SZA's story, a studio door cracked open, a red rec light, and a hand sliding a lyric sheet onto the console. In the corner of the paper, a tiny emboss, A crown. Tilted, not Kendrick's Chess King. A crown associated with the very rapper fans had been whispering about for years, an artist whose entire brand thrives on strategic shadows and surgical jabs. The comments didn't tiptoe. No way. She really did it. This is DEFCON 10. Minutes later, the rival reposted a boomerang. The same studio door, same red light, his hand forming a silent shush. Caption: "We don't talk, we drop, no tags, no mentions." But the implication throbbed like bass through a stadium floor. This wasn't collaboration for vibes. This was a banner raised over contested ground. Twitter detonated. A thread with 100,000 likes mapped the symbols. Kendrick's Lone King versus the rival's tilted crown. SZA's scorched flower versus a new sleeve photo where that flower appears pressed into a book titled Chapters. A fan wrote, "She didn't leave hip-hop. She switched chapters." Another added, "If she's cutting on a vault beat he wanted for himself, that's a declaration." One reply, chilling in its simplicity: "This is how dynasties end. Within." An hour, a private listening room in Los Angeles started trending from the outside. No cameras allowed, phones secured in pouches. But someone slipped a sentence to a blogger. "She sings like she's holding receipts in both hands." That line alone was enough to whip a storm. The blogger embedded it over a clip of City Lights and typed, "I can't say whose beat this was meant for, but I can say the hook is a mirror and a knife." Meanwhile, playlist editors moved like chess pieces in real time. A flagship Day One playlist swapped out a classic Kendrick collab for a deep-cut SZA ballad. Another platform quietly updated the thumbnail of a West Coast Essentials list. The Chess King vanished. The tilted crown appeared in silhouette behind a sunset skyline. Petty, calculated. Patent, the fans noticed. Streaming apps picking sides now. One comment read, "This is bigger than music." Another said, "This is infrastructure." Backstage, industry phones rang with unspoken panic. Lawyers checked clause numbers nobody had read in years. Sample clearances got reevaluated. An A&R text leaked that said, "If that chorus clears by Thursday, Friday is a funeral." The word funeral became a trending topic, not for a person, but for an era. Then came the clip. Not a leak of the song. Something subtler and more devastating. A 7-second snippet of SZA in the vocal booth. Eyes closed, palm pressed to glass, singing a single line with the force of a verdict. "You don't get to own my echo." No beat, no mix. Just the rule of her voice. Raw, bell clear, undeniable. The booth light flickered as if electricity itself leaned in to hear. The caption, "Test, not final." The effect, final enough. Celebrities started poking the bear. Without saying names, a pop icon tweeted, "Protect the girls who write and bleed." A veteran rapper posted a black and white photo of a chessboard being cleared with one swipe of a hand. A producer known for work on both sides wrote, "Nobody wins when power forgets the point of music." Replies were split between halo emojis and flame wars, and then the backlash spun. Is she being used to poke a giant? Is the rival exploiting a fracture for headlines? The rival's fanbase countered with receipts of old interviews where he'd praised SZA's pen like it was precious metal. He's not using her, he's elevating her, they argued. The narrative mutated by the minute. Inside camps, motion turned manic. TIT-lipped in public initiated a lockdown on archival sessions. Engineers were told to pull down cloud mirrors. Old bounce folders vanished like they'd never existed. Rumor had it a hard drive courier left the building with 2 guards and a panic-strapped backpack. The phrase chain of custody suddenly belonged to music as much as law. On the other side of town, the rival's studio ran like a war room. A whiteboard with 3 columns, hook, verse, story, understory. Someone had written, "Say enough without saying names." Underhook, Own your echo. Under verse, a line blacked out by a Sharpie so thick you could feel the fury through the pixels of the leaked photo. And Kendrick? He broke his silence without a syllable. A midnight post, a close-up of a night piece, not a king's card, tilted, still standing. The caption was a single hourglass emoji. That choice mattered. Nights move in L shapes, unexpected angles. It was a promise. If this is chess, I don't move where you think. Reddit's think tank went feral. One user stitched 10 years of Kendrick's imagery to argue the hourglass meant patience weaponized. Another decoded the night as a nod to offbeat entries, surprise drops, the element of strike. He's not cornered, a top comment claimed. He's setting traps. At 3:06 a.m., when every sane schedule was asleep, a push notification hit a small chunk of fans from a test account long believed to be Kendrick's sandbox. It contained a 2-second click, the count-in of a metronome, followed by a dry voice memo tag. Run it back? Was it real? Was it bait? The debate swallowed the night. By sunrise, news outlets joined the scrum. Headlines screamed in italics. SZA joins forces with Kendrick's quiet rival collab incoming. West Coast Civil War. Is the king playing defense? Talk shows booked analysts like it. Was election night. One panelist said, "This isn't befits an audit of power, credit, and who gets to define the sound moving forward." Another smirked, "Audits end with ledgers balanced or burned." And then the reveal sharpened from fog to blade. A press invite and branded, sent from a new domain, hit select inboxes. Closed preview tonight. 3 tracks, 2 hearts. 1. Chapter. Attached, coordinates to a warehouse with blackout windows and a limited capacity note. 66 seats only. Why 66? Fans spun numerology wheels until sparks hit the carpet. Outside the warehouse, drones buzzed like mechanized mosquitoes. Inside, attendees surrendered phones. Then walked through a hallway lined with Polaroids of studio scribbles. Own your echo. Choose the cut that cuts back. Crowns tilt when they're heavy. The room smelled like cables and cold. Coffee the scent of midnight deadlines. A projector flickered. The rival appeared in silhouette. SZA, a half step forward, mic steady like a compass needle. No introductions. Just music. Track 1 bled in like a sunrise over a battlefield. Choral pads, gravel drums, a bass line that rolled like thunder from a far ridge. SZA laced the air with the echo line, then turned it into a gauntlet. The rival came in surgical, measured. Almost too common till the final bar when he shifted cadence and said a single incendiary phrase that forced the room to stop breathing. Some cuts are made by cowards. No names, but the glass in the room seemed to listen for a crack. Outside, in the parking lot, someone with a pouchless phone typed what they'd heard into a notes app and screenshot it to the world. Within minutes, timelines hardened into trenches. He called him a coward. He didn't say his name. He didn't need to. Tracked toward in a different key warmth, weaponized. SZA's harmonies moved like seafoam, beautiful and relentless, carrying a subtext fans read as a ledger of moments, erased bridges, late-night edits, a studio door closing from the wrong side. The hook landed like a verdict attached to a love letter. I'm not your silence. The room's oxygen thinned, just when attendees braced for track 3. The lights blinked, the projector wind, and the power died. Total blackout. A beat later, the emergency lights sputtered on, painting everyone the color of panic. A single generator cough, then a loud metallic click from the back hallway. People turned. A shadow crossed to the exit like a chess piece, moved by a giant hand. On every phone outside, notifications stacked. A new post from Kendrick's account went live in the dark 8 words under a photo of the night. If it's war, don't forget the map. The warehouse doors opened. Security ushered people out. No third track, no closure, just the electric ache of almost. The invite domain blinked off the internet like it had never existed. Inside the silence, one truth stood up and refused to sit down. The reveal wasn't a rumor anymore. Lines were drawn. Voices were armed. And somewhere between that night and that tilted crown, the coast itself held its breath, waiting for the first open shot. The cliffhanger wasn't subtle. It was surgical. Whose map wins when the battlefield keeps moving? By the time the sun fully rose after the blackout, the story wasn't just a headline. It was a cultural earthquake. Every corner of the internet, from stan Twitter to industry. Slack channels was vibrating with takes, theories, and thinly veiled shots. The hashtag war was immediate. Hashtag on your echo, hashtag tilted crown, and hashtag night move all trended at once, creating a surreal mix of alliance flags and battlefield maps. SZA. Fans posted collages of her past verses that had been underrated or cut short, positioning her as the voice finally breaking free. Kendrick's fans countered with threads of his lyrical genius, calling the rival an opportunist and SZA a pawn in a bigger game. Neutral voices. Rare in this climate, picking a side wasn't optional. It was demanded. YouTube reaction channels fired up emergency live streams. One commentator shouted into his mic, "If you think Kendrick's sitting still right now, you're crazy." That night post. That's not defense. That's lining up the next checkmate. Another warned, the rival's not here to spar. He's here to take the throne. Live chat scrolled so fast it looked like code breaking down in real time. Industry? Names started weighing in, cryptically, but clearly invested. A producer with credits on both Kendrick and SZA projects tweeted, "Legends don't fear legends, they just make better songs." A pop diva posted an Instagram story of herself sipping tea while the hook from "I'm Not Your Silence" played in the background. One legendary West Coast MC broke the unspoken rule of not naming names, writing, "I've seen this before. Pack and big, but digital." The press ran with it. Variety dropped a think piece titled "Echoes and Kings, the West Coast Rift that could define a generation." Pitchfork went analytical, mapping lyrical references from the preview night to past Kendrick tracks, suggesting the blackout was intentional, a symbolic pause before retaliation. Complex, never subtle. Headlined. By sunrise, there was movement. A burner account, long rumored to belong to someone in Kendrick's inner circle, posted a blurry image. A close-up of studio monitors displaying a waveform. The caption, "Final render, no context, no date." But hidden in the upper corner of the screen, zoomed-in fans claimed they could make out the file name. The map burns. If true, that was a direct answer to the rumored third tracks. Maps burn to line. The implication. This wasn't a counterpunch, it was an obliteration in progress. Industry insiders began leaking whispers of something bigger. This wouldn't be a diss track. It would be an event. Word was Kendrick was quietly booking an undisclosed venue for a live recording session. Audience invite only, cameras rolling, and no edits after the fact. One take, one night, the whisper went. If you miss it, you miss it. The rival. Camp, perhaps sensing the shift, doubled down. Photos of SZA and the rival, in what looked like a desert location, began circulating. She was in headphones, wind tangling her hair, a mic stand anchored into the sand. The rival stood beside her, holding lyric sheets down against the gusts. It was cinematic, and deliberately so. Fans didn't just speculate now. They predicted strategies. Comment sections became war rooms. Would Kendrick drop first to seize the narrative? Or would the rival and SZA land the next strike before the night could move? Every move, every shadow, every cryptic post became a potential clue. Then, as if to tighten the knife, a mysterious clip aired for a split second during a late-night sports broadcast. In between commercials, the feed glitched, showing what looked like a dimly lit recording booth. Kendrick hunched over a notepad, tapping a pen in rhythm. No logos, no audio. Just the image, and then it was gone. Social media caught it instantly. Some claimed it was a technical error. Others swore it was the first breadcrumb of his retaliation by the end of the day. One thing was undeniable. This wasn't dying down. If anything, the stakes had just escalated beyond music. This was personal, now etched into pride and history. And the way each side moved next would decide who rewrote the chapter and who became the footnote. But the last blow of this chapter didn't come from Kendrick, the rival, or even SZA. It came from an entirely unexpected source. A major streaming platform quietly updated its homepage banner at 11:59 p.m. It was split screen, one side showing the night piece, the other the tilted crown, and in the center a single white pawn. No caption, no explanation. It was the pawn that set the internet ablaze. Who was it? A new player about to enter the board? An unknown artist waiting in the shadows? Or a symbol that neither king nor crown would survive, and someone else entirely would rise? The truth will come, but when it does, the map everyone's been playing on might already be on fire. So now you've seen it all. The unfollow, the leaks, the tilted crown, the night, the blackout, the pawn. And here's the truth. We are nowhere near the end. What just unfolded isn't a finished story. It's the opening act of something bigger, sharper, and far more unpredictable than anyone thought possible. Ask yourself this: if the pawn is real, who is it? Is it a new artist ready to play both sides? Is it a silent ally we've all overlooked? Or could it be someone from inside either camp who's been pulling strings from the very start? Think about it. A feud this perfectly timed, this perfectly messy, doesn't just happen by accident. And what about Kendrick's rumored The Map Burn session? If that's real, we're talking about a live, unedited, gloves-off event that could either cement his dominance or prove the rival and SZA have already taken the board. If you were him, would you drop now to strike first, or wait until their momentum peaks and then crush it? I want to hear your theories, and I mean the wild ones. Drop your take in the comments. Who's the pawn? Who's really in control? And when this war goes public for real, whose side are you on? If you think this chapter was crazy, you don't even know what's coming next. The whispers I'm already hearing about the next move make this week look like a warm-up. So stay locked in, subscribe right now, turn on those notifications, and buckle up, because when the next leak hits, you're going to want to be the first to hear it. This isn't just music anymore. This is war, and it's about to get louder.